Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Through 808. Today we're going to talk about Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. This is a 1 to 4 player solo trick-taking game, which has gotten a lot of buzz over the last couple of months, and as well as in my own group. So I will show you this. It's basically the first of a trilogy. So there's going to be 3 games based on the 3 different books or movies. And this is obviously covering the first book / movie. And it is very akin to something like The Crew, which I had a brain fart and forgot the name of the game, which I have sitting right behind me. It's like that. So you have, hand of cards, and you have different rules for winning the trick. So it's not just like, collect sets and score points. It's, so-and-so has to go out at certain orders or get certain cards or get certain number of tricks. So it's cooperative or solo in the case of this game. And you're kind of playing through the journey of, I should stop saying movie because it's more like the book because it's got more stuff in here that's not in the movie. So it's really based on the book. And I think the artwork and everything in here, which is fantastic, by the way, really, really good artwork, and just overall graphic design it's astonishing. It's really good. But it's more bookish. It doesn't feel like a movie. Obviously, there's no movie stills or anything, but it feels more like it's kind of more based on the book. And I bet you if I looked at the license or something, it would probably say based on the book and not on the movie. But yeah, let's go down to the table. I'll talk about the solo mode. I'll talk about, playing with other players and that kind of stuff. And then I'll come back and tell you what I think. Okay, so here's the box. Just want to show you the box a little bit. Nice, cool, flashy cover. And then you've got these sort of compartments, which you have. So you have some basic stuff in here. Once you kind of do the first game, which is outlined in here, how to play, then you're going to move through different chapters. And there is 18 chapters in the game. And it has this nice little thing. So you can kind of have like a working sort of deck of cards as you get more unlocks and stuff like that. But it's pretty easy to kind of set back up. And there is a game mode, which I have not yet played. Kind of once you finish all 12 chapters, or even beforehand if you want, you can just kind of have like a never-ending mode that you could just keep playing. Although, the reason I haven't played it is because I think I would go back through the game again in chapters. And I've played this solo, I've played it with people, and different groups, and I like just kind of starting over. We played it, I don't know, it was probably 2 weeks ago now, but we just like, let's just set up from the beginning. And I played it with everybody else that had not played it except for me, and it was great. I loved it. They loved it because it was their first time, and I was like, this is really cool. And I will say the difficulty does go up as you go through the chapters. I would say there's not anything that has been like, some of the scenarios in The Crew are just like wantonly hard. Nothing in here I don't think has really seemed that hard, but there's been ones that have been difficult and we've lost and stuff a bunch of times. So let me just grab some random cards here. Hang on a sec. Here, I'll grab one sort of at the beginning here. This is chapter 7. So it's a little ways in. There's nothing really to spoil, but I don't want to spoil all the mechanics and stuff. So this tells you some characters to use. Let's take a look here. So you have some characters there. You have a threat. And then victory is short, which is finish all chosen characters. Now there's a few ways to do this, and there's like a little bit of a story thing here on the backs of these, which is cool. So the writers are, there we go. So this is an interesting deck of cards here, which will come out. And these will be used in various different ways. So it's just, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this will kind of randomize some of the goals of the scenario. And then you've also got here different characters that you can use. Like so, and then some at the bottom here that, you've gone through the stories, kind of moved past them. And these will all have different win conditions. Here, now you're always going to have, usually, not always, Frodo here. So Frodo's win condition is win 2 or more ring cards. The player dealt the 1 ring becomes Frodo. And so your first several games will be like that, where you'll have these characters out, and then you'll get dealt your hand of cards. So we'll have a hand of cards here, and then you have these different suits here, and you're going to have the 1 ring card in here somewhere. Of course, I had to shuffle in with some alternate cards. So you can do that, and then the players will have a draft of characters. Now, the chapter rules will sometimes tell you who you must pick. So you can see they have the little asterisk next to them. So you must pick at least Mr. Underhill and Barlam and Butterbear, but then you get a choice here of Sam, Mary, or Pippin for the others. These will be available in a display here to choose, and then you've basically got to satisfy each of the conditions, and you win the game. Now, sometimes the chapter will say, go back through and then replay it, and then some of the characters that weren't chosen, you've now got to win it with them. So you got to win it multiple times to get through. And I think, honestly, having played this enough, I would kind of be in the mode of like, let's just do that anyway. Even for the beginning scenarios where it's like, oh, let's do everything. So we make sure we win with all the characters. Just to add some, some playability to the game. Just for fun, And so what happens is players will be dealt these hand of cards. Then you will lead, Frodo will lead, and then you collect tricks like you would in a normal trick-taking game. So the highest, value of whatever the lead card was, whatever that suit was, is going to be the winner. There is no trump. You'd think, oh, the ring cards are trump. They're not trump. The twist with that is you have these tokens, actually. So you have these tokens, which I'll explain, plus this ring token. So you give this to the Frodo player, or whoever, and it's, by default, it's off. So which means you can't play ring cards. The only way you can play ring cards is if somebody does not have the suit that was led. So if somebody doesn't have a hill, then they can slough off a ring card. Once that happens, then the ring cards are activated. Now players may lead with the ring card. And there's only rings going up to 5. The rest of these, I believe, go up to 8. And so that's the little wrinkle there. A very simple wrinkle. These tokens here are used to kind of mark a player's character. So if we know that they fulfilled that condition and there's nothing that will happen later in the hand that will break that, you can mark that. So it's kind of a nice little visual indicator that we don't have to worry about satisfying Billy's character's condition like that. And then also, I'm gonna shuffle these in, but these, sometimes they'll add a whole new suit. These are forest cards, these will get added in. There's new threat decks that'll come in, there's spiders, there's a river suit. You'll get items and stuff like that, which will kind of work like character cards. You'll get updated versions of character cards, which you can kind of see there. And then it'll kind of just sort of tell the story as it moves along. Now the solo mode, which I've also played, is actually pretty cool because what you do is you'll have your 4 characters. Let's just do like this here, randomly. Like that. You still have the abilities that you have to satisfy for the conditions. And then you'll deal out, let's do this a little bit randomly, 4 cards to each player, like that. It's very simple, and it's actually very easy compared to playing with players. Just because obviously you can't see everybody's whole hand. As you can see, you don't have a full hand. But after everybody's played a card, you've assigned the trick to one of the characters, let's say. Then you deal out more cards and so on. And so you can see not the full hand right away. It's kind of like in progress. So you still have some randomization with stuff coming out the deck. But it works pretty well. And I will say, don't get discouraged because the first several scenarios are pretty easy. And it's also a little less interesting because, well, let's talk about it in the review. But I like it generally, but we'll come back to it. There's a couple other mechanics where you will bury a card in the lost pile there, and then that may go to a particular character because there'll be an uneven number of cards dealt. One will go there. Then you can also exchange cards. And that will be dictated on these different characters. Sam and Pippin can trade cards, or Frodo and Gandalf can trade cards. And so that's a little exchange action that can happen between those characters. And that's kind of driven by whatever their win condition is. And it'll be win the last 3 tricks, win the first 2 tricks, or, win exactly 1 trick, or collect all the ring cards, or 5 of the ring cards. And all those different things. So the exchange options will kind of vary based on that. And like I said, the characters will get updated as the quest kind of moves along there. But that's the general sort of rules of the game. Okay, so that was the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game. That's the actual title. Let's just jump into my review pillars here. What does the box say for the time? I don't know what that is. Hang on. Oh, it says 20 minutes. I think that's probably right. I was going to say half hour. But yeah, you can definitely have some tricks that you are playing and you're like, we are going to lose, so let's reshuffle. That could probably take 15 minutes. And that happens with any trick-taking game, especially our crew has played a lot of the crew, and we play a lot of trick-taking games in general, competitive and co-op, and trick-taking is like right up our alley. We play them quite a bit. And yeah, so we will know. I'm just saying, like, we're a little seasoned, and we'll be like, that's not working. And I'm just going to say, I won't say I have tempted to say his real name, but I'm just going to call him Billy. I'll say, because we know Billy's at the table. And sorry for that inside joke thing, but yeah. So anyway, when we're playing with Billy, chances are we're going to lose. And, all right. So anyway, so 20 minutes, half an hour. That's a good take on it. Player count. I prefer it with players. Let's make sure that's clear. But I really do like the solo game of this. It is a nice sort of how do I couch the experience? It's like playing solitaire. And you're like, what do you mean, Joel? You just said you played solo, you're playing a solitaire. No, I mean solitaire, the card game, the Klondike solitaire card game you play on your computer all the time, or at least you used to, like in the 90s. I don't know if people do that anymore. But well, I used to play it in person. I remember my grandpa teaching me solitaire when I was like probably 8 or something. And this gives that same sort of vibe, because you got those like little rows of cards, and you're kind of taking the tricks and putting them at the top, in solitaire when you have the different little piles, and then you do the runs up top, ace through king. And so you're kind of putting the tricks up there. And you're kind of at the whim a little bit of the deck. And it's like it's baked in. When you play solitaire, I don't know, I haven't studied the game, but I think basically you've baked in your win or loss, unless you miss something, And so this is kind of like that, but not quite. There is some probabilistic stuff that's going on, because you don't like baked in your selection of cards, although the order of the deck. Anyway, it's a little bit baked in, which is where it kind of softens the edge, where I'm like, there's not a lot of ways to kind of mitigate stuff, but you can, because if you're doing it, you're playing tricks in a way that you should be playing them. Think about how you would play them in a multiplayer game, about who takes what. And you have a very sort of limited selection of information, not perfect information, because it would just win every time, probably. Although I think I'd be curious. There's probably a way if you deal trick-taking games that you're like, okay, we lost, if you somehow can know. There's probably some situations like that, but there's at least the illusion of mitigation based on how you play the cards, which is all I need. I just need illusion. But yeah, so my point with that is that I really do like the single player game. I prefer it with players just for the banter, the talking, talking through things thematically. And the trick taking aspect, it really works. But would I recommend it? So if you just were to play it solo, 100% I would. I think it's a lot of fun. And this will lead me into my sort of last pillar. What is this game like? Well, obviously it's a lot like The Crew, and any other kind of trick-taking game that you can imagine. Mostly The Crew because of the co-op nature of it. And there's another solo trick-taking game which I've not played. It's not Fox in the Forest. I think that's a 2-player game. Oh, I need to go look it up. I'll put it. Maybe I'll do a little subtitle thing once I remember what it is. That one looks cool. It's a different mechanic, that one, that's going to be at the bottom of the screen here, than this one. So I'm interested to try that one to see which one I kind of like better. But because of the campaign of this, I think I would much rather play this than The Crew. And I've got both crews, the undersea one and the outer space one. And I really like those, and I'm not going to get rid of it. I've got them both in one box combined. It's not taking up a lot of space, And I think there'll still be opportunity to play The Crew, further down the road in life. And this, though, because of the campaign, and because we played a lot of The Crew. I don't want to say we played every possible scenario in The Crew, but some people in my group probably have. But I played quite a bit of them. But the thing about this is arguably there are, I don't know, there's more variety in The Crew because there's just more overall scenarios and a lot of things. But a lot of them get really kind of curmudgeonly mechanical or something. and without really much benefit to like the overall experience. Benefit to like the brain cells being fired and lost, never to be regained again, because some of the crew ones, like I said, are just super tricky. A handful of them. But this one, I don't know, somehow it tells a story. Somehow it works. And there's enough sort of fun trying to figure out the puzzle of putting the trick together so everybody can fulfill their goals, that it works on the right amount of weight and depth and mental taxation and all that stuff. And because you are playing a story, like you can play a lot of crew games back to back to back, but then it becomes very like matrixy, numbers flying through the air, which is great, cool. But this one is like, you still get that bit of it, but then you're traveling along, you're like, oh, what, you open the box, and then the next, these characters come out, and, oh, I remember this guy from the story, and that, and so, and it somehow kind of works a little bit, very lightly, kind of kicks you, like a little story, sort of very brief, and then kicks you into the game, and just having that game experience kind of punctuated with that little sort of thematic, awesome looking artwork. The artwork in this is fantastic. It just makes the journey through all of these different scenarios way cooler and more pleasant. And that's really neat. And I'm like, God, how is this as good as it is? And it's not really, it's basically the Crew, you know, or that style. I know there's been other games like the Crew, but because of the presentation, because of how it rolls out the scenarios, because of the artwork, because of the little different, and the characters like change, you know, and you splash in little other elements, which is not like the Crew really, because you have some of these extra decks of cards and threats and different suits and stuff that come into play. And again, it's a very visually expressive, varied thing, so it pulls you into the game that way with the graphics, you know what I mean, with the artwork, and yeah, so it's great. I recommend this for just about anybody, and it will kind of slow boat you in there. So if you're not really big on the trick-taking games, the earlier scenarios are definitely easier, and so that'll kind of slow roll you in. Now, if you lose the first scenario, don't feel bad, because I've lost the first scenario a couple of times, and it's just going to happen. Like I said, sometimes it's just kind of baked into how the cards are dealt and the decisions players make, Billy, that make you lose the scenario. And so yeah. But and then they do definitely get progressively harder. And I talked a little about some of the variants you could kind of play with, and there's some more variants in the book I didn't talk about, but I talked through some of those in the walkthrough. So it gives you, you know, it's a toolkit kind of thing. Even though it's like a, you know, a quest set of missions, when you're done, I've not played the like whatever the never-ending scenario, whatever that is, because when I'm done, like I'll just play through it again. I think it's great, and you can play it through like on the hard mode like I was talking about, and that would be really cool. So there's a lot of bang for your buck in this little box here. So take a look. Thanks.